Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Kepler Station, staring at the enemy fleet dominating the view screen. Their numbers were so vast they blotted out the stars. 200 alien warships floated ominously surrounding the station, like wasps guarding their nest. Each vessel was 3 times the size of humanity's largest constructions. How long until they're within range? Jake asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez's fingers flew across her console. As she analyzed the data, 20 minutes, sir, maybe less. Jake gave a curt nod, his face betraying no fear, though his chest tightened with each passing second. Kepler Station housed 50,000 people, mostly the families of the engineers and technicians maintaining the outpost. Oh, children laughed in classrooms while their parents ensured humanity's most distant stronghold thrived. The attackers were from the Zon Empire, a race of towering reptilian beings. For weeks they had been methodically eradicating human colonies. Their fleets arrived with demands of surrender. Any refusal was met with merciless slaughter. "Sir, incoming transmission from the enemy," said Communications Officer Sam Turner. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The display shifted. From the imposing warships to reveal the Zon fleet's leader, Admiral Krixt stood over 8 feet tall, his green scales glistening and yellow eyes glowing with disdain. His voice rumbled like grinding stones. "Human Commander, I am Admiral Krixt of the Zon Empire. Your kind has encroached too far into our space. Surrender this station immediately, or we will annihilate it and everyone aboard." Jake stepped forward, his posture resolute. "This is Commander Morrison. Kepler Station lies within human territory. We will not abandon what is rightfully ours." The Admiral's guttural laugh filled the bridge, cold and mocking. "Rights? Your kind dares speak of rights? You are weak, your warships are pathetic, your weapons are laughable. Against the Zon Empire, you are nothing." "We don't bow to tyrants," Jake said firmly. Krix's eyes narrowed, his voice turning icy. "Then you will die with your defiance. You have 6 hours to reconsider. After that, we will reduce your station to debris." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Jake turned to his crew, their anxious faces reflecting the enormity of the moment. "Amy, what are our odds?" he asked softly. Lieutenant Rodriguez studied her display and hesitated. "Not good, sir. We've got 12. The station had defense platforms armed with heavy weapons, and 30 fighter ships ready for launch. But the enemy had 200 warships." Jake walked to the observation window, gazing into the void. The alien ships loomed closer, their hulls dark and organic, as though they had grown instead of being constructed. Green lights pulsed along their sides, rhythmic and unnerving, like alien heartbeats. "Sam, send a distress call to Earth Command. Tell them we need reinforcements now," Jake said. "It's already done, sir," Sam replied. "But Earth is 6 days away at maximum speed. Even if they dispatch ships immediately, they won't arrive in time." Chief Engineer Lisa Park turned from her console. "Sir, I can boost the shield power by 30%. Won't last long, but it might buy us some time." "Do it," Jake ordered. He knew it wouldn't be enough, but they had no choice but to try. Dr. Ben Harris entered the bridge, his medical uniform pristine, despite the tension etched on his face. "Commander, what should I tell the families? The children are asking questions." Jake hesitated. "Tell them the truth, Doc. We're in danger, but we're not giving up. Let them know humans don't run from fights." Suddenly alarms blared, and red lights bathed the bridge. "Enemy scout ships incoming," Amy reported. 12 small craft heading straight for us. "Launch our fighters," Jake commanded. "Tell Captain Stone to intercept and keep them away from the station." Through the window, Jake watched as human fighters streaked out, meeting the enemy in the void. The sleek human ships were agile, weaving through the darkness like dancing flames. The alien scouts, larger and heavily armed, engaged with relentless aggression. Explosions flared as one alien craft, then another, went down. "This is Stone." The captain's voice crackled over the com. "Engaging scouts. There. Quick, but our pilots are better." Jake's satisfaction was short-lived as Amy's voice cut through. "Sir, long-range sensors show the main fleet advancing. They'll be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Lisa, divert all power to shields and weapons, Jake ordered. Sam, inform all civilians to move to the station's core. The safest area. What about the outer sections? Lisa asked. We'll fight for every inch, Jake said grimly. But if we have to retreat, we fall back to protect the core. The first enemy shots tore through the void, striking the station's shields. Green energy beams made the shields blaze bright blue, and the station quaked under the impact. Shields at 90%, Lisa reported. Return fire, Jake commanded. The station's weapons roared to life. Red laser beams and missiles streaked toward the enemy ships. Explosions erupted as some projectiles hit their marks, but the overwhelming enemy numbers made the damage negligible. The station rocked harder under relentless enemy fire. Lights flickered, and Lisa's voice rang out again. Shields down. 70%. Through the windows, Jake saw more enemy ships closing in, taking up attack positions. This first wave was just the beginning. Soon all 200 ships would descend on them. All 200 ships will soon be firing simultaneously, Amy reported grimly. How long can our shields hold under full assault? Jake asked. Me checked. Her console. Maybe 2 hours, sir. 3 if we're lucky. 2 hours wasn't much, but it was all they had. Jake activated the ship-wide comms. This is Commander Morrison. His voice echoed across the station. The enemy expects us to surrender. They think we're weak. They believe we'll fold when things get tough. But they don't understand humans, do they? Everywhere, people stop to listen. We'll show them what we're made of. We'll fight with everything we've got. Some of us might not make it, but we'll ensure they never forget the name Kepler Station. Closing the channel, Jake turned back to his crew. All right, people. Let's give them a fight they'll regret starting. As the battle began in earnest, the station shook violently under the relentless assault. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the lights flickered erratically. Jake gripped his chair as another barrage rocked the station. Shields at 40%, Lisa Park called out. Her voice was steady, but the strain was clear. She worked tirelessly to keep the station's defenses operational. Sir, Amy interjected. Scanning her tactical display? We've lost 3 defense platforms. The enemy is concentrating fire on the outer ring. Jake watched through the window as a defense platform erupted in a brilliant explosion, reduced to debris within moments. How many enemy ships have we taken out? He asked. 7 confirmed kills, Amy replied. Coming. In the medical bay, Dr. Ben Harris worked on a fighter pilot whose ship had been destroyed in the first skirmish. The pilot's left arm was badly burned, and he kept asking Doc, "Are my squadron mates okay? Did they make it?" Ben injected a painkiller. Rest now. The others are holding the line, just like you did. But deep down, Ben knew the truth. Half the fighter squadron was gone. Now only 15 remained. The alien ships were simply too powerful. Command, this is Stone. The captain's voice crackled through the radio. He sounded drained. We can't hold this pace much longer. Requesting permission to fall back and regroup. Negative, Stone, Jake responded firmly. Keep hitting them. Every ship you destroy is one less targeting the station. Copy that, Command. We'll keep fighting. Jake knew the terrible truth. He was asking his pilots to sacrifice their lives. Yet if they ceased their attacks, the station would fall even faster. It was a grim choice, but the only one he had. The elevator doors slid open, and Sergeant Mike Chen stepped onto the bridge, his Marine uniform torn and dirty. Cuts marked his face, and his rifle was ready in his hands. Sir, they're boarding us, Mike reported. Enemy soldiers are cutting through the hole in sections 7 and 12. My men are holding them, but there are too many. Jake's stomach sank. This was his worst fear realized. The enemy wasn't just trying to destroy the station from space, they were sending soldiers to take it over. How many? Jake asked. At least 200, maybe more coming, Mike answered. They're big and well-armored, but we know this station better than they do. Fall back if you have to, Jake ordered. Make them fight for every inch. Mike nodded and left to rejoin his Marines. Jake knew the sergeant would give everything. But rifles wouldn't hold off the enemy forever, sir. Sam Turner said from his station, reports are coming in from other colonies. The enemy is attacking everywhere. It's not just us there. Hitting everyone at once. How many? Jake asked. At least 12, maybe more. The signals are being cut off, one by one. The realization hit Jake hard. This wasn't just an attack on Kepler Station, it was a full-scale annihilation of human space. Even if Earth sent help, it might already be too late to save anyone. Any word from Earth Command? Jake asked. Sam shook his head. Sir, the enemy is jamming all long-range communications. I can't get anything through. Another explosion rocked the station harder than before. The lights failed entirely for several seconds before emergency power restored dim, red illumination. What was that? Jake demanded. Amy checked her console. They hit the power station in Section 4. We're running on backups now. Lisa's voice crackled over the comm. Commander, I can give you 1 more hour of shields. After that, we're down to hull armor. Jake calculated quickly. An hour wasn't enough for reinforcements to arrive or to evacuate the civilians, but it was all they had. In the hangar, Captain Stone climbed out of his battered fighter, its hull riddled with holes, one wing missing entirely. Nearby, his mechanic, Carol Jensen, worked furiously on another damaged ship. Carol, how many fighters do we have left? Stone asked. 8 that can fly, she replied. Maybe 10 if I patch these 2. Stone glanced around the hangar. Where there had once been fighters and bustling pilots, now there was mostly wreckage. Too many good people were gone. Carol, take an escape pod. Get to Earth and tell them what happened, Stone said. Carol paused and looked at him. Not leaving, Captain. My place is here. There might not be a squadron much longer, Stone replied. Then we'll make the last fight count, Carol said, returning to her work. On the bridge. Jake made a choice he had hoped to avoid. Lisa prepared the reactor overload sequence. Lisa's voice came through the speaker, hesitant. We do that if we can't save the station. We'll make sure the enemy pays, Jake interrupted. How big of an explosion can you generate? A pause. Then Lisa answered, big enough to take out 50 enemy ships, but someone will have to trigger it manually from the reactor room. Jake nodded, the weight of the decision heavy. It would be a suicide mission, but could save other colonies by crippling the fleet. Prepare it, but don't activate it yet. We're not finished. He stared at the tactical screen, watching more enemy ships move into position. The shields were failing, and enemy troops were inside. Help was days away, but they would keep fighting. The bridge lights flickered and died again, replaced by the red glow of emergency power. Blood dripped from a cut on Jake's forehead as another explosion rocked the station. Shields are gone, Lisa reported grimly. We're down to hull armor. Amy looked up from her display. Sir, the enemy has breached the outer defenses. They're moving in for the final attack. Jake stared at the tactical screen, determination hardening his gaze. Only 3 of Kepler Station's 12 defense platforms were still operational. The enemy had lost 20 ships, but over 150 remained. The odds were staggering. How many civilians are still in the outer sections? Jake asked. About 5,000, Amy replied. The transports are evacuating them, but enemy fighters keep attacking. Jake watched through the window as the slow, unarmed transport ships struggled to escape. The enemy fighters hunted them like predators chasing prey. Some transports made it to safety, but too many erupted into fireballs before they could flee, in the station's corridors. Sergeant Mike Chen and his Marines were locked in brutal combat, the enemy soldiers towering. At 8 feet tall, and clad in impenetrable armor, fired green energy blasts that sliced through metal. Fall back to Section 5, Mike yelled. Use the choke points. The Marines retreated through narrow hallways as the aliens pursued. Mike turned and fired his rifle at the nearest soldier, but the bullets barely scratched the armor. The alien raised his weapon, aiming at Mike. Marine Corporal Danny Miller jumped forward, launching a rocket. The explosion knocked the alien down, but more enemies poured in behind him. How many rockets do we have left? Mike asked. Was the last one, Miller replied grimly. Mike's jaw tightened. They were running out of heavy munitions, leaving them with only rifles and grenades against enemies that were stronger, better armored, and better armed. On the bridge, Sam Turner's voice broke through the tension. I'm picking up something on long-range sensors. It's faint, but it looks like ships. Jake's heart leaped. How many? Sam worked furiously at his console. I can't tell. The enemy's jamming is too strong, but there's definitely something out there. How far away? Jake asked. Why are we 2 hours at normal speed? Sam said. We don't have 2 hours. The station won't last that long. Jake clenched his fists, knowing Sam was right. Enemy's final attack was imminent. Once it began, the station would fall within minutes. In the medical bay, Dr. Ben Harris worked tirelessly on wounded Marines and civilians. The room overflowed with people suffering burns, cuts, and fractures. Supplies were critically low. A young girl, about 10 years old, sat silently on a bed with a cut on her arm. Her serious eyes met Ben's as she asked, Doctor, are we going to die? Ben knelt beside her. What's your name, sweetheart? Emma? She replied softly. Well, Emma, Ben said gently, a lot of brave people are fighting to keep us safe. Commander Morrison and his crew won't give up, and neither will we? Emma nodded, her voice steady. My dad's a Marine. He's fighting the bad aliens. Ben smiled sadly, hoping her father was still alive. Too many Marines had already fallen. In engineering, Lisa Park worked on the reactor overload sequence. If triggered, the reactor would detonate like a massive bomb, destroying the station and everyone aboard, but also taking out a significant number of enemy ships. Lisa stared at the control panel. A few button presses and an access code were all it would take. The explosion would happen in 10 minutes, giving the remaining civilians a slim chance to escape. She opened a COM channel to the bridge. Commander, the overload sequence is ready. Someone needs to input the final code from the reactor room. Understood, Jake replied. Stand by. He looked around the bridge at his crew. Amy was still at her tactical station, searching for ways to hurt the enemy. Sam monitored communications, scanning for rescue signals. They were all good people, and none of them deserved this fate. Command, this is Stone, came Captain Rick Stone's voice over the radio. I've got 4 fighters left. Can't stop their main attack, but we can. Try to hit their command ship, Stone suggested over the radio. Negative, Jake said firmly. Save your ships. You may need them for something else. With respect, sir, these fighters won't make much difference against 200 enemy ships, Stone argued. Let us go out fighting, Jake understood the sentiment. Waiting to die was unbearable when you could be in the fight, but Jake had a different plan. Stone, escort the transport ships. Get as many civilians out as you can. Yes, sir. Stone replied, disappointment in his voice. On the tactical display, Jake watched the enemy fleet reorganize, their weapons charging and targeting critical sections of the station. The final assault was imminent. Amy, how long until they fire? 3 minutes, sir. Jake opened the ship-wide comms. All hands, this is Commander Morrison. Prepare for the final assault. All remaining personnel, report to the Corps. Sections immediately. He paused, gazing out at the enemy fleet. We've done everything we could. We held them off longer than anyone thought possible. Whatever happens, remember that we didn't give up. We fought for our people and our home to the very end. Closing the comms, Jake turned to Lisa. Lisa, prepare to input the final code on my order. Ready, sir? Lisa replied. Suddenly Sam shouted, Sir, massive hyperspace signatures detected. Something big is coming. Jake's head snapped toward the sensor display. The readings were unprecedented. How big? He asked. Sam's voice was shaky. I think it's a fleet, a really big fleet. Outside, space twisted and shimmered as something tore through. Hyperspace. A burst of bright blue light enveloped the void, and then the first ship appeared. It was enormous, 3 times the size of the largest Zephyrion warship, its dark gray hull bristling with weapons. Ship after ship followed until the vastness of space around Kepler Station was filled. How many? Jake whispered. Sam stared at his screen, stunned. Sir, over 800 ships. Amy checked her tactical display repeatedly. These aren't just any ships, sir. They're military. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, a full battle fleet. The Zephyrion fleet hesitated, their final attack abandoned. Jake watched through the window as enemy ships turned to face the new arrivals. Admiral Krixt had likely never seen so many human warships in one place. The largest human ship moved closer, blocking out the stars behind it. Stamped on its hull were the words USS Vengeance. "Sir, incoming message from the fleet," Sam reported. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The display flickered, revealing a woman in a crisp military uniform. Her gray hair framed serious eyes, and her chest bore an array of medals. "This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the First Fleet," she announced. "Commander Morrison, we received your distress call. Apologies for the delay." Jake was momentarily speechless. "Admiral, how'd you get here so fast?" Earth Command said help was 6 days away. Sullivan smiled grimly. "We weren't coming from Earth, Commander. We've been stationed in the outer system for 3 months, preparing for something like this." "Waiting for what?" Jake asked for the Zephyrians to make a mistake, Sullivan replied. "They think humans are weak because we don't start wars. What they don't understand is that not starting wars and not being able to fight them are very different things." On the tactical display, the human fleet moved with precision, spreading into attack formation. Massive battleships with heavy weapons took the center, surrounded by swift, deadly smaller vessels. Sullivan's voice echoed again, but this time she addressed the Zephyrions. "Admiral Krixt, this is Admiral Sullivan. You've attacked human colonies and endangered our civilians. You have exactly 1 minute to withdraw your forces from this system, or we will destroy you." The reply came swiftly. Admiral Krixt appeared on the screen, his yellow eyes blazing with fury. "Humans. You cannot threaten the Zephyrian Empire," Admiral Krixte declared, his yellow eyes narrowing. "We have 200 warships. Your numbers may be greater, but your technology is primitive, your weapons weak. Your minute starts now," Admiral Sullivan replied calmly. Cutting the communication, Jake watched the countdown timer on his screen. 60 seconds. 50. The Zephyrian fleet didn't budge. They were preparing to fight. "All ships. This is Admiral Sullivan," her voice echoed across the fleet. "You have permission to engage. Show them what happens when you attack humanity." What unfolded? Next was no battle, it was a lesson. Captain Steve Martinez, commanding the UHS Thunder, fired the ship's main guns. Massive energy beams ripped through 3 Zephyrion warships as though they were paper. Each shot obliterated its target entirely. Commander Julie Evans led a squadron of stealth ships that emerged seemingly from nowhere, cloaked by advanced technology. Her vessels struck the enemy's supply ships before they even realized they were under attack. The Zephyrions were utterly unprepared for the human weaponry. Instead of traditional energy blasts, humans deployed guided missiles equipped with adaptive intelligence. These missiles pursued targets relentlessly, detonating with pinpoint precision for maximum destruction. "Sir, look at this," Amy said, pointing to her tactical display. "The fleet isn't just firing randomly. They're working together like a single coordinated machine." Jake watched, awestruck, as the human fleet moved through the enemy formation with surgical precision. Every ship maneuvered with purpose, firing at the exact right moment. Warfare had become a perfected art from a safe position near the station. Captain Rick Stone and his surviving fighters observed the carnage. "Command, are you seeing this?" Stone asked over the radio. "We're not taking any hits at all." He was right. Zephyrian ships detonated in rapid succession, but the human fleet remained virtually unscathed. Their shields absorbed incoming fire effortlessly, while their impenetrable armor rendered Zephyrion weapons useless. In the medical bay, Dr. Ben Harris and young Emma watched the spectacle through a viewport. "Doctor, are those our ships?" Emma asked, her wide eyes fixed on the massive vessels. "Yes, sweetheart," Ben replied with a soft smile. "Those are our ships, and they're here to keep us safe." Emma's face lit up with her first smile since the battle began. "They are really big." "Yes, they are," Ben agreed warmly. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Krixt stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In just 20 minutes, over half his fleet was destroyed, while the humans had not lost a single ship. Retreat. He barked to his remaining captains. All ships retreat immediately. But Admiral Sullivan wasn't done. Pursue the enemy, she commanded. Do not let them escape to threaten others. The human fleet gave chase, annihilating the fleeing Zephyrians across the system. It wasn't cruelty, it was strategy. Allowing the enemy to regroup would only invite further attacks. In engineering, Chief Engineer Lisa Park deactivated the reactor overload sequence with a relieved sigh. "It looks like we won't be needing this after all," she muttered. In the station corridors, Sergeant Mike Chen and his Marines lowered their weapons. Zephyrian soldiers, desperate to retreat to their ships, fled without resistance. The battle was over. On the bridge, Jake watched as the last enemy vessels jumped into hyperspace. The tactical display showed staggering results. Over 150 Zephyrian ships destroyed, and not a single human ship lost. "Admiral Sullivan," Jake said, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you. You've saved 50,000 lives today." "Just doing our job, Commander," Sullivan replied. "But this isn't over. The Zephyrians started this war. Now we're going to finish it." Jake gazed at the assembled fleet. For years, humanity had feared its isolation in a perilous galaxy. Now he understood the truth. Humanity was no victim. It was the galaxy's most dangerous force. 3 days later, Kepler's station was unrecognizable. Engineering ships had repaired damaged sections and replaced the destroyed defense platforms. The station was now stronger than ever before. Jake walked through the medical bay, where Dr. Ben Harris was tending to the last of the wounded. Most injuries were healing well, though the station had lost many brave souls. Still, they had survived. "How's everyone holding up, Doc?" Jake asked. "Better," Ben replied. "The civilians are asking when they can return to their homes in the outer sections." "Soon," Jake assured him. "The engineers say another 2 days, and everything should be back to normal." Little Emma ran up to Jake, her arm in a sling, but her face beaming. "Commander Morrison, my dad came back. He was fighting the lizard people, and he's okay." Jake knelt to her level. "That's wonderful, Emma. Your dad is a very brave man." "He said you're brave too," Emma replied. "He said you saved everyone." Jake shook his head gently. "We all saved each other, Emma. That's what humans do." The bridge, Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was collaborating with officers from Admiral Sullivan's fleet. Together, they analyzed battle data and studied Zephyrian tactics. Their ships were powerful, but they fought like they expected an easy win. Amy explained to Commander Frank Davis, Sullivan's intelligence officer. "They didn't adapt when we pushed back harder than expected." Frank nodded, taking notes. "That matches our findings from other encounters. The Zephyrians have been winning for so long they've forgotten how to face a real challenge." Captain Rick Stone entered the bridge in a crisp new uniform. Admiral Sullivan had promoted him for his valor during the battle, and he was now part of the fleet's strategic planning team. "Commander Morrison," Stone said, "Admiral Sullivan wants to see you on her flagship. She has something important to discuss." Jake boarded a transport to the USS Vengeance. Up close, the colossal battleship was even more imposing. Its weapon ports were massive enough to house guns larger than entire fighter ships. As he walked through its corridors, Jake felt as though he were in a floating city. Admiral Sullivan greeted him in the command center, a room alive with tactical displays. Star maps filled the screens, showing the entire region. Red dots marked Zephyrian-controlled space, while blue dots represented human colonies. "Commander Morrison," Sullivan began, "I wanted to thank you personally. Your defense of Kepler Station gave us the time we needed to position our fleet." "Admiral," Jake said, hesitating, "I have to ask, where did this fleet come from?" "A month ago, Earth Command told us help was days away. Now, you're here with 800 warships." Admiral Sullivan smiled knowingly. "Sit down, Commander. It's time you learned the truth about humanity's real military strength." Jake sat in a chair across from Admiral Sullivan's desk. Behind her, the wall displayed images of ships he'd never seen before. 20 years ago, Sullivan began, our scouts made first contact with a species called the Void Hunters. They were peaceful, but they warned us of something. They said the galaxy was filled with predator species that would see humanity as prey and try to conquer us. So we prepared, she continued. Not just Earth, but every human colony. We built shipyards in secret, developed advanced weapons, and trained fleets no one knew existed. Jake's eyes shifted to the star maps on the displays. How many ships do we really have this fleet?
Oh, yes.
Sullivan gestured around. It's just the first fleet. We have 5 more fleets like it, stationed across human space, plus defense forces at every major colony. Jake's head spun. That's almost 5,000 warships. 5,047, Sullivan corrected. The Zephyrians thought they were fighting a weak species with a few dozen ships. They had no idea what they were truly facing. She pointed at the map. We're not just defending against the Zephyrians. We're ending their empire. No more attacks. No more demands for surrender. What's my role in this? Jake asked. Sullivan handed him a datapad. Congratulations, Captain Morrison. You're being given command of the UHS Liberty, a heavy cruiser. You'll join the task force securing the border systems. Jake blinked at the orders. Admiral, I'm just a station commander. The man who held off 200 enemy ships with 12 defense platforms, Sullivan said. That's exactly the kind of leader we need. 2 weeks later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Liberty. The sleek, powerful ship was armed. With cutting-edge weapons and shields, many of his crew were familiar faces from Kepler Station, including Amy Rodriguez as tactical officer. Through the viewport, Jake saw the Zephyrian border. Intelligence suggested that Admiral Krixt had returned to the Zephyrian homeworld with only 30 ships, likely warning his leaders that humans were far more dangerous than they'd ever imagined. Captain, incoming message from the Zephyrian government, Communications Officer Sam Turner reported. Put it on screen, Jake said. The display flickered to reveal an older, scarred Zephyrian. He looked weary. War of the Zephyrian High Command, the alien said. We seek to discuss terms to end hostilities. Jake smiled. We're listening. On Earth, news networks scrambled to explain the sudden turn of events. For months, humanity had feared alien attacks. Now they learned humanity wielded the most formidable military force in the galaxy. In the Zephyrian capital, Admiral Krixt sat in a dim prison cell. His government had blamed him for the disaster at Kepler Station, but Krixt knew the truth. The disaster wasn't his fault. It was that the Zephyrian Empire had chosen humans as their enemy. In the far reaches of space, human fleets patrolled openly for the first time. They were no longer hidden, their presence a message to all. Humanity was not prey. On Kepler Station, Emma played on the school playground, her arm free of its sling. The station was safe, protected by human warships. Emma didn't understand the politics or military strategies, but she knew this. When bad things came for humans, good humans fought back. And human fighters, it seemed, were the best in the galaxy. The age of easy victories over humanity was over. The Zephyrian Empire would spend the next 50 years paying reparations and rebuilding its shattered fleets. Other hostile species took note. Humans appeared peaceful because they chose to, but when forced to fight, they fought better than anyone else. It was a lesson the galaxy would never forget.